Well, I am really happy to spend a little time talking with Katie Auger and Mary Gibbs about the Senior Center. You guys are both integral parts of the programs that we do here, and I just thought that while we're in this week of um, letting people know about what's going on at the center, that you would be two great people to talk to about some of the activities that we're experiencing and your experience here. I know Mary has been with the Senior Center longer than I have. Before it was the standalone senior center that it's been the last 3 years. And Katie, you joined afterward, but you also have had the unique opportunity to be a bridge between this organization and Island Volunteer Caregivers. So I thought that we might just start with each of you describing a little bit about what your day is like, what kinds of things you do as part of your activity with the center. Mary, do you want to start?
Sure. As operations manager, I am pretty busy keeping things going around here. I order supplies and research things for various purposes. And I reconcile the cash that comes in through the reception office and the thrift shop and report to our bookkeeper on Fridays. So those activities keep me pretty busy. And then I have some other special jobs I do researching some of the COVID stuff.
So, yeah, that has been a real transition for us to try to figure out how to keep this place as active as it can be, and yet keep everybody safe. Have you found? I mean, obviously at the beginning, hand sanitizer was like an impossible thing to come by.
That's true. And I've recently been researching hand sanitizer, and you would be surprised at what the variations are in the ingredients in some of the hand sanitizer out there. And I've been trying to find the exact right one to have here so that we don't have any issues. And it's interesting to note that the ones with isopropyl alcohol instead of ethanol are don't have an odor because isopropyl alcohol is denatured. And the ethanol and methanol ones have liquor grade alcohol in them. And some of them that have been coming up recently from the bootleg locations have had a terrible smell because they're using the equipment they use to make alcohol, whiskey, and whatnot. And so I've narrowed it down to a couple of suppliers that have the good stuff. And we pay a teeny bit more for it, but it's worth it in the long run. So it doesn't have a smell. I also found out just recently that you have to add glycerin or aloe to the isopropyl combination so that it stays wet on your hands longer, because it needs to be on wet for 20 seconds before it's effective cleaning your hands. So if you wonder why that isn't drying very fast, it's on purpose. So you need to take the time, just like you're washing your hands, to keep rubbing your hands for 20 seconds with the isopropyl alcohol-based gel. So,
well, thank you for that information, which I did not expect to get in this conversation, but you learn a little something every day.
Well, that's just to go and show you what kinds of things I've been learning as we go through this whole situation.
And Katie, your job, can you describe a little bit about what it is in the abstract and then sort of how it's formed itself in our COVID days?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was also just going to say too, I know we're like a minute in and I feel like I've already learned so much, and I'm really glad Mary is on top of all of this to teach us and figure out the best items to keep us all safe. So thanks, Mary.
You're welcome.
As for myself, I'm the Community Resource Navigator with the Senior Center, and as Reed mentioned, also with Island Volunteer Caregivers. Every day looks very different for me. When we are under different circumstances and meeting at the Senior Center, it's been my pleasure to be able to set up some different presenters that get to highlight some of the community resources that we have available to us. So that's anyone from Kitsap Aging and Long-Term Care Services to Kitsap Transit, Helpline House, the fire department, you name it. I'm always trying to find interesting and helpful resources to bring into the center. But really a big part of what I do is I'm available and here to meet with folks one-on-one. When the center is open, I've been doing that in person, and now under COVID times, what I've been doing is setting up times to meet with folks on the phone. I know it looks a little different, but I think it's still a great way. I'm always encouraging folks, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can call the Senior Center, and I'm still here to talk with folks one-on-one and just hear a little bit more about what they've got going on, and if there's any possible resources that we could get you connected to. There's still many programs and things that are up and running. And yeah, I'd love to be able to share about them.
So I know that you just concluded a series on aging mastery with the supported by the National Council on Aging, and you had some get-togethers as part of that. Can you share a little bit about how that felt for you to do with what? There were probably about 5 or 6 people involved in this conversation group?
Exactly, yes. So the Aging Mastery program generally is done with an in-person classroom setting. They also have the take-home starter kits. And so we kind of ventured into unknown territory this time around, doing something somewhat of a hybrid of those 2 programs. So as Reed mentioned, we've been meeting with a group of 5 or 6 folks, and we just wrapped up. And I think we got really good feedback. I know personally, I really enjoyed it. We go over all sorts of different topics that relate to aging and just ourselves and how we see our place moving forward in life. And so I think it was really great. The kits are still available for folks, and anyone who's interested, again, you can contact the Senior Center. I'm happy to get people connected to that. And for folks who are interested in engaging a little bit more and wanting to maybe meet up with other folks in a nice little cohort and just share, we can make that available as well. So yeah, I'm really glad that we've been able to move forward with this program. Hopefully we'll get back to doing in-person sessions in the future, but in the meantime, again, I think it's been a really great way for folks to connect.
I asked you each to think about experience or interaction that you had that kind of brought to mind some of the unique qualities of working at the Senior Community Center. Mary, do you have something that came to mind for you?
Well, I think we actually touched on this in the splash this time around, but I really enjoyed working with my helper, Chris Emery. And she has shown herself to be an incredibly diligent worker, and she helped me to clean and sanitize 66 chairs that were donated to us by the Highland Middle School. And she just was a pleasure to work with, and I'm continuing to have her help me with projects around the center, keeping things clean. She's been sanitizing our pens so that we have a clean jar and a used jar, and every week she's here, she cleans all the used ones and keeps us busy, keeps her busy, and keeps us with fresh pens. And she does a lot of other work like that for me. And we have another project coming up this week, setting up some new bookcases inside. So when the weather turns, we're going to be able to bring the weekly book sale inside. Great. And have a library set up for that. So those kind of projects have been really fun.
People may remember Chris as the petite younger woman who has been helping out part-time with things like setting up tables and cleaning before. And after a little hiatus, we've been able to safely bring her back to help out during this time. And yes, it is a delight to see her for a few hours each week. Katie, do you have a story to share?
I do, and in fact, it took me a little minute to try to narrow it down because I think we all probably have numerous examples that we could bring up. But one that's really stayed with me early on when I started in the Community Resource Navigator position with the Senior Center. I had a gentleman come in and visit me, and he had been encouraged by different people in the community, like, go to the Senior Center, go to the Senior Center, go talk to the Community Resource Navigator, go talk to somebody there. And sure enough, he came in and we just had a really, really lovely conversation. He had a lot going on in his life, new medical diagnosis that, you know, had been weighing on him. And we really just sat and visited. And, you know, at the end of it, you know, we talked about some different resources and different ideas. And, you know, he was appreciative to get those. But I think at that point in time, what he was really appreciating most was just having someone to talk to. And he kind of expressed that, you know, for him, it was therapeutic to just be able to come in and talk to someone. And in that situation, I was the fortunate person who was able to be there and have this really lovely conversation. But I know it clearly doesn't start and stop with myself. I know that there's so many great conversations that people have. And, you know, I think once folks feel comfortable enough, or whether you've been a member for years or whether you're new to the community, being able to come into the senior center and, you know, chat with a fellow member, chat with a volunteer, chat with staff. It's just a really powerful thing. So that's what stood with me.
That's great. I just want to say it's a pleasure to work with both of you, and the enthusiasm of this organization is definitely fed by the kind of energy that you were talking about, both with Chris and the gentleman who came in. The idea of making a difference in people's lives actually makes a difference in our lives. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
So thanks for joining me today, and thanks for helping out with this little window into what's going on these days at the Senior Center.